So we were talking with Francesco about, yes, let me speak about this before starting with the session, right? Because I guess that is also a common concern in the community. So what we have now is that 26.1 in enterprise supports only search enterprise. That means that you can use Elasticsearch or OpenSearch as searching engine. For community, we can still be using Alfresco search services, and and we are working on a replacement that is based also in OpenSearch that will be released this year. I still don't know the exact date, but it will be released this year. So in parallel, a community member that is Jesse, or call it Jeremy Lesatz, started a project to run Alfresco with the latest Solr version. By now is Solr 9, is running in Solr 9, but I guess that it should be easier just to upgrade to Solr 10. So these are the three different options you have today, okay? In any case, if you have any doubts or if you consider that writing all this down in a blog post or whatever, just let me know and I will write everything on the blog post or some other place. So going back to the session today, so we are talking about the Hyland AI Ready Hub. I don't know if that will be the name, but mainly what we are providing is semantic search, RAG, that is specifically related with AI search. Then in addition to this, it's fully deployable on premises and it's fully open source. Still, we still need to decide the license, Apache or whatever. We still don't know. And the other main feature is that it's multi-source. You can connect Alfresco repositories, but also Nuxeo repositories, or more than one Alfresco and more than one Nuxeo repositories. And in addition to this, it's permission aware. And it's permission aware applying this multi-tenancy. So you can have the identity in different repositories, and we are preserving this identity when you are using the semantic search or the RAG search. So let's start with the concept. So what is a content lake? So internally, this piece of the platform, we name that as content lake. So the content lake is this specific box. So this is the content intelligence platform. So you have this SaaS offering that is the CIC, and this specific part is the content intelligence. So inside the content intelligence, we have this content lake. We are going with the details later. That is filled with this ingest, data curation, and contents engine. And that is also providing information to the agent builder or to the knowledge discovery. So mainly the knowledge enrichment and the knowledge discovery. So it's this piece in the middle. We have also additional pieces, but we are focusing in this one. So this one is the one that will be open sourced. So this is also something that you need to take in care, because this piece is not a new project. So it's a project that we are currently using in our CIC offering and that we are extracting. So we are open sourcing something that has been working for 3 or 4 years. So it's not a new project, but it's something that we are open sourcing, and what we are, yes, we are working on decoupling this, all the different dependencies that it already has with AWS mainly. So this part is the one that we are going to release. So it's the storage and the query engine of the current Content Innovation Cloud. Mainly, it stores the document chunks with the vectors embeddings. It provides a REST API for semantic and hybrid queries. So an hybrid query is a query that is mixing both term query and semantic query. I guess that later we are going back on this, right? Why to use hybrid queries instead of only semantic queries. So we are going back on this. And the other main feature is that is permission aware. So permissions, you don't need to deal with permissions, and they are applied at query time. So you are always getting the results that you can that you have access to. The repository is still private for now, but the internal code name is hxpr. So this is the internal name. So mainly what you have is your Nuxeo or your Alfresco, and then you can just store your data in the content lake. We are not duplicating data. We are going also later on that. So we are only storing the data you need for AI. So it's not a duplication of all the content in your Alfresco or Nuxeo. So the main idea is that you can run your Alfresco, your Nuxeo as is without any modification, and that you can only synchronize the information you need for this AI work. Okay, so this is the first idea, and what is inside this hxpr. So it's a platform that is based in Java 25 and Spring Boot. And in the DB, we are using MongoDB. So this is like a mix up of Alfresco and Nuxeo. So it's not 100% Alfresco, not 100% Nuxeo, but it's a mixture of both. So we have the MongoDB for the metadata, classic, and then for the file system, we have S3, or we can use local stack, or we can use file system. And then for searching, we are using OpenSearch. So this OpenSearch is the one that is providing the hybrid query. In addition, we have also transform services. So these are exactly the ones that we are using for Alfresco. And also we have all the extended REST API that provides access to many different services. So this hxpr, this content lake, it's not only a repository for AI, but it's like a full repository. Okay, so then we were moving to this Hyland AI Ready Hub. So this yellow box is the one that we are releasing as open source, but we need to fit the documents inside the hub, and also we need to get access to these documents in order to use RAG agents or any other kind of AI agents that we want to develop. So for this, the knowledge enrichment, it can be provided by the Content Innovation Cloud, both knowledge enrichment and knowledge discovery, or you can build that by yourself. So what we are seeing now, it's a POC that is mainly under this repository that is providing this knowledge enrichment and this knowledge discovery layer. So once we have the framework and when we have defined this, you can say, okay, this is like a generic RAD platform, likely, but with some specific features that you can, I guess, that you cannot find in any other project. So the first one is that you will be able to deploy entirely on premises, so you don't need to deploy a single piece outside your control. It supports multiple content source, both Alfresco, Nuxeo, and more than one Alfresco and more than one Nuxeo, so multi-tenancy. Then we are enforcing permission-aware search. So you are only getting the information you are allowed to read. And finally, you can scale that up because we are providing Docker Compose with different services. So you have the ability to scale that up. Okay. So if we move to the Content Lake application, to the POC, so remember that this POC is implementing or providing a reference implementation for this knowledge enrichment and this knowledge discovery. So what we are doing is using this Hyland AI Ready Hub and then building ingesters, knowledge enrichment, and building a RAG service that should be the knowledge discovery. The goal is to keep Alfresco a source of truth. So we are not replicating all the metadata. We are not replicating the binaries. We are also sending selected metadata and a text representation of the content. And then we are storing one document in hxpr, one by one, with Alfresco and with Nuxeo. And then we are storing also the embeddings for a document. So I guess that you know this process. But to prepare your information for AI, what you need to do is to split the documents in chunks. One big document, we need to split that in a number of chunks. That is because of the capacity of AI for the queries and so on. And then we are calculating vectors. So we have vectors, numbers, that are representing a chunk of the document. So this is what is stored in the database. Not in the database, sorry, in the OpenSearch. So we have, with that, we are able to provide hybrid search, and we are also storing permissions. For both Alfresco and Nuxeo, we have ingesters. An ingester is a connector that is provided by default, that it's able to take information from Alfresco or from Nuxeo and to send this text with metadata to the Hyland AI Ready Hub. So you have both components for Alfresco and Nuxeo, and then we have this rack service that is also something that is able to provide semantic or hybrid search and provide the classical streaming with answer, with citations, and so on. And for this, we have a demo UI that is based in Angular and also an Alfresco extension. So all of this is a reference implementation of the thing that you can build on top of this Hyland AI Ready Hub. If we inspect how this is built, how this POC is built, then we can see that this is Java 21, Spring Boot, and Spring AI. So I know that some of you have been experimenting with Python for this part. That is fine. I mean, it's something that likely many of the community agree that is a better option. But I was just trying to provide this approach that likely is more familiar to you because it's using Spring Boot, that is a known technology, and Java, and also Spring AI, that is really near to Spring Boot. So what we have inside is Alfresco and Nuxeo, and what we have is the batch ingester, the leaf ingester for both Alfresco and Nuxeo, and then we have some operations in this content lake core, that is the chunker, the embedding service, and the connection to the hxpr service. So with this, we have also the rack service that is REST API, some REST API endpoints, and this is mainly the architecture, right? So a batch ingester and leaf ingester for each type of repository, and then this part that is just storing in hxpr the documents and so on. And finally, this rack service, that is the component that is providing you the semantic search, hybrid search, and the rack. So how the ingesters work? So these ingesters or connectors are exactly, they have been implemented as in the same way as we are implementing that for Alfresco. So we are extracting metadata and ACLs. If that is using the batch service, then we are accessing sorry, the REST API. And if we are doing that leaf, then we are listening to events. And yes, this is community, right? So you can use Alfresco community and Nuxeo LTS. So both are supported. So the first is that we are storing this, then we are extracting the text and creating the tags and embedding the vectors in the background. And finally, we are indexing all the document with the metadata and with the content. And you can run both leaf and batch ingesters in parallel. So there is no limitation for that. So then what we are providing also is hybrid search. Why hybrid search is better than only semantic search or only term search? So vectors are able to find the meaning, so semantic search. So you are able to find the meaning, but you are missing exact terms. And in the other way, if you are using keyword or term search, you can find only exact terms, but needs just to build a huge list of synonyms. So for this is why we are providing a combination of both. So we are just running with the KNN format the query in the vectors, and then the BM25, the standard 10 query, and then we are combining then with this rank, right? So this is just providing you a mixture of both, and we are just trying to increase the relevancy of the results. And obviously, all of them are filtered at query time by the permissions stored. And finally, on the rack service, so the user query, we need to extract, or we need to represent this query as vectors. So we have this embed query, and then we use this hybrid search to get the context. So once we have the context, we are building the prompt, and we are sending that to the LLM. So rack is just getting context from your documents, and then using this context for the LLM just to build the answer. And then we have also an implementation of a memory. So if you, the classical loop, starting a conversation, then we are also just feeding the LLM with the previous history in the chat. So these are all the three services that we have. And you want to deploy this, then this is mainly a Docker Compose. Docker Compose a number of assets. So you have a regular Alfresco deployment. So obviously we are providing this as a demo, but likely you have your own Alfresco deployment. And then we have the hxpr deployment. So this will be the AI Ready Hub, the content lake deployment that we will be providing, I hope, in September. And then we have this content lake, and the content lake is this process that includes the ingesters and also the rack service. So this is the POC. And finally, we have the application. So the ACA, it's an extension, an ADF extension that you can use with ACA or ADW in the demo application. So finally, what you have, it's many different services deployed with Docker Compose. What about hardware? So what we are going to see today is this specific machine. So we have 8 CPUs, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and then we have a Tesla A10G GPU that is 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and we are using 85.7% of the VRAM. So you need just to calculate this in order to get the maximum benefit of your hardware. So for that, we are using MX by Embed Large. This is for the embeddings, and Qwen 40 billion for the LLM that is occupying that 18 gigabytes. So if you want more, you can just buy more GPU. If you want less, you can get less. You can get something that is not that powerful. And for local deployment, you can always use the CPU with Docker Model Runner. So for local development, using Docker Model Runner is enough. So you have one flag that is able to use GPU or the CPU. Okay, so I guess that all of you were waiting for this. So we are going to see, to review the extension for ADF. So this is ACA, and I'm including this specific extension. But let's start defining something, so we can just understand how this works. I'm going to create a new folder. Let's say that the folder is books. And I'm going to enable this content, enable this folder for Content Lake. So once I enable this, every document inside this folder will be synchronized with the Content Lake, with hxpr, right? So I'm adding this, that is the first chapter of Alice, and you can see that the status is pending. So now I'm extracting the document, I'm calculating the chunks, I'm calculating the vectors, and I'm storing that in hxpr. So once that is ready, so you can see you have a new tab that says that the ingestor is indexed, okay? And it's included because it has been stored in the books folder. Also, you can exclude a document from being indexed. So imagine that you have a folder with many different folders, and you want to index everything but a folder or but a document. Then you can use this to exclude that from the indexation. And in this folder, we have also this specific panel that includes all the documents that have been indexed inside the folder. Okay, and you can also start a prompt, a rack conversation only in this folder. So if you want to start some questions inside only the folder, then you can use this option. Or you can use this semantic search. So for instance, I'm going to use rodent. So rodent is not a synonym of rabbit, but even with that, we are able to find rodents in the text. Okay, so this is what semantic search means. And then we have the chunk, so exactly the detail that is containing this part. And in this case, it's related to bats, I guess. And we have also access to the document. Okay, so we can open in Alfresco the document, so we can see the full document that has been sorry, that it's coming from our results. Okay, so let me do that again. What happened? Okay, here we go. Perfect. You can do exactly the same thing with RAG. So we can start a conversation. So now we are going to get it's a RAG service. So according to source one, Alice fell into the hole after seeing a rabbit with a waistcoat pocket and a watch, driven by burning curiosity to follow it. And we have also access to the source and all the parts that are describing this. And again, we can just navigate to the document. And then we can just keep on running this conversation. What was the color of the rabbit? I don't know. I'm making random questions, but I guess that you can get the idea. And obviously, all this is also applying permissions. I'm not going to send you this, but if we create more than a single user, if we create different users, then we will apply permissions. Okay, was white with pink eyes. Okay, so nice. It looks like this is working. Okay, so we have the same for Nuxeo, but before that, we can start a new conversation, and we can say how many different animals Alice met. So on the first chapter, we can see that Alice met two different animals, a white rabbit and a cat. Okay, so that's fine. So as I said, we have also some extension for Nuxeo. And in this case, if we move to this workspace with some policies, so we already have some documents on it. If we add a new document, let me find this. That is Alice chapter 2. So this is the chapter 2 that includes some other animals. So as this folder, it's also synchronized with the content lake. Every document that that is on this folder will be also sent to the hxpr. So you can see that we have like many different animals in this. So again, from this part, I can only see chapter 1, and from this part, from Alfresco, I can only see chapter 1. From Nuxeo, I can only see chapter 2. But we provided also this reference UI. So this reference UI, it's something just to test how permissions are applied when having more than one repository. So in this case, I have the connecting with Alfresco and with Nuxeo, with both. So if I start a chat, how many different animals Alice met? So in this case, as I have both, I'm going to retrieve results from both. And permissions from admin and administration will be applied. Obviously, you have an IDP, you don't need to include this manually, right? But this is a demo application. It's just only for you to understand how this works. So in this case, okay, met a duck, a dodo, a lorry, and an eagle, and also a mouse. So now it's combining both, right? It's combining results from Nuxeo, but also results from Alfresco. So we have on a single query all the results coming from different sources and applying the permissions from these users. So this is more or less the demo. I hope that was simple enough. It's a simple use case. Obviously, you can think on it of many different use cases, but with this you can understand how that works. So we have an extension for ADF. We have also a plugin for Nuxeo, and then we have we don't have an extension for Solr, but we can build an extension for Solr if that is required, right? So this is a reference implementation. So if someone wants to use this with Solr, we can build an extension for Solr because all the all the internal part is the same. we just need to build the UI in Solr. And this is the sample application for using both. Okay. So for now, what you can do with this? So you have all the repositories and then under github.com Borroy. So likely this is not the final place, but for now you can just inspect the repository with the content lake application. That is the Java ingestion pipeline and the rack service. So it's the core logic. Then we have the content lake app deployment. That is all the Docker Compose stack that is required to deploy all the services. Then we have the Content Lake App UI, that is this demo UI that you already have seen with the authentication to Alfresco and Nuxeo. And then we have this Alfresco Content Lake UI, that is the extension based on ADF that you can deploy with ACA and ADW. And we have also the Nuxeo plugin if you need that. So again, this project is only for demonstration and education. It's a reference implementation. It's not an official product, but we can move that to Alfresco Labs or whatever, and we can maintain this as an initial base, as a reference, and so on. So what is the product itself, the Hyland product, will be the hxpr that will be released later in 2026, and that will be a supported product and with all the guarantees, releases, and so on, usually provided by Alfresco Nuxeo and Hyland. So just to remember all these things that we've seen, we are able to deploy that fully on premises. So the whole stack is running in your data center. For development, and I was using that, you can use Docker Model Runner with your Docker desktop. You can just use simple embedding like MX by the embed flags and the Quen 2.5, I don't know, 1.5 billion or 2 billion large is enough, because with this, you for the good thing is that for RAG, you don't need a very large LLM. Sorry, with a small one is enough. And then for production, instead of using Docker Model Runner, we are using VLLM and TAE. This is because not only because of the performance, but only for the parallelisms. So these are handling better parallel requests. And we are using also larger LLMs for embeddings and larger LLM for the rack and so on. And in this case, we are using also a re-ranker for rack, because we have more power, let's say. So again, I want to remember that this is around 19 gigabyte of VRAM. So with that, you can control your data sovereignty. So everything is under your control and under your infrastructure. But this won't be um, the only way of using all this stack. So this is the first column. So using everything on premises, that is this model. Then you can use everything on full cloud, that is the SaaS offering from Hyland. So this is the CIC. And in the future, we are providing also an hybrid deploy. So you can use on-premise your repositories, but you can use data curation or data enrichment from the cloud. And then you can go back again to your on-premises content lake uh, to be used by your application. So this is not ready yet, but it will be provided in the future. So why to do that? You say, okay, if I have everything on premise, why I need to use this full cloud or this hybrid? It's because of the quality of the results. So obviously you can get a quality, let's say 5, if you use everything on premise, and then with hybrid, likely you can have 7. But if you use all the services that are in the cloud, then you can get 9. So it depends on the quality of results that you are expecting to choose, and also obviously on your requirements to choose your deployment option. But in the future, all of 3 of them will be available for you to test. So finally, because I'm speaking a lot and my voice is not in the best shape, so you don't need to migrate your documents, so you can use your existing Alfresco, your existing